I am that I am. Sanctus Germanus. Yes. Holy brother. Holy brother. I am that I am. Adamus. Saint Germain. Please, please. I'll take the coffee. You keep the dog. Thank you. Thank you so much. See, you don't even have to ask. It's just there when you need it. The dog, not the coffee. So, my dear friends, welcome to this gathering. Welcome to the beginning of our new Shoud series. I always love this. When we start a new Shoud, so many exciting things coming to us this next year. This is the walk on Shoud, the powerless life. I call it that because it's time to just walk on from those things that are no longer serving you. Time to just walk on from, well, your old history. Time to walk on from that biology. Time to walk on from that mind. Walk on into what you have dreamt of, into what you know is there, but you couldn't possibly figure it out from your current mind in your current body. Time to just walk on. And that's exactly what we're going to do. It's interesting to come to this point because I've been with you now 6 years, going on our 7th. And I know there are times when many of you say, but when are we really going to get to it? When are we going to start doing magic tricks and manifesting gold out of thin air and all of these other things? Yes, yes. But I know that these things are incidental to you. They're really not that important. I know what's really important. What's really, really important is just that connection back to yourself. That's it. With that, everything else is incidental. Yes, you can actually manifest things out of thin air when you want, but you don't have this overwhelming desire to do it. You're not trying to escape from the human self prison because you're already free. You're already out. I love working with Shambra. I love to call myself the professor of freedom. I'm sorry to put you to sleep there, big yawn. She's like, let's get on with the gold, forget all the other stuff. Less lecture, more gold. Yes, I can already see the t-shirts. So I like to call myself the professor of freedom because ultimately that's what enlightenment is. That's it. Enlightenment, ascension, fancy terms for freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from all of the old obstacles, all of the old identity, all of the things that have held you back. Freedom to do anything, and that includes the and. I love the and because it means you can be a human. You can have your issues, you can have problems, and you don't at all. That's real freedom, when you can play in every arena, in every dimension, when you choose. You don't just slip out of being a partially conscious human and go into this grand ascended being who sits on top of a mountaintop and chants and meditates. No, it's the and. It's all of those things. And that's true freedom. True freedom. But it saddens me a bit at times. Other times it makes me laugh. But I go back to one of the original questions that I asked of Shambra. Are you really ready for freedom? The fact is, most are not. And that's okay. It's okay until they talk about freedom. They desire, they want freedom, they fight for freedom. But yet they're really not ready for it. They're really not. They want an enhanced human experience, but not real freedom. So here, as we enter into our 7th year, I have to honor each and every one of you for being here. Many have left, and rightfully so, gladly so, because it's difficult to do this work that we're all doing with a scattering of consciousness and desires. It's difficult to do it when there are those who are only in it to make a better human identity, but don't really have a real commitment to themselves as spirit beings, as gods. Those who are just dabbling, or worse yet, those who are really just trying to take energy. We had that. Tobias particularly had it. Those who came to the gatherings just to take energy. Really didn't hear a word, really didn't feel a connection, but they felt this was a great place to steal energy. Over the years, they've gone. They've left because it's not a real good energy stealing place anymore. It's not. You're not allowing it. You're not playing that old game anymore. So they've gone other places, or they didn't have enough fascination happening, magic tricks, and or there weren't enough aliens. Now, I could sell tickets with aliens if we were going to talk about alien beings and talk about these other realms. But in fact, it's not even important. They're not in human form. They have not gone through the experiences. They're nowhere near as conscious or as enlightened as you are. Not at all. Just because they have green scaly skin and live on a different planet somewhere doesn't mean they're wise like you are, or they're loving like you are. And just because they come from a distant galaxy or dimension doesn't mean that they have any more knowledge, knowingness, intuition than you do. So we've been able to move them away. I've literally invited them to leave. And now what we have left is a core group all across this planet who are absolutely allowing their freedom. Now we can go places. Now you've seen in these past years that we've been together, you've seen what the program is. I'm not going to give you these huge, dreamy promises. I can't. I can tell you a bit about what you're experiencing right now and where you could potentially go. What I do beyond my words when we're talking, I do try to tickle, to activate that place in you that already knows. But I can't give that to you. I can only perhaps inspire it, or try to help you to recognize it. Try to help you to recognize what this is really about. Long gone are the spiritual novelty seekers that used to hang around, and long gone are those who are looking for quick physical healing. We don't do healings here. I don't. You do. So they go somewhere else because really they don't want to be healed. They really don't. Otherwise, they would be. That's a hard statement, one I've made before, but one that now each and every one of you are coming to understand. They really don't want the real freedom that healing could give. They want some attention, they want some temporary relief, but you know, you've seen them. They'll go right back. They'll trade in one disease for another. They'll trade in one emotional, dramatic issue for another. Now, I know many of you have gone through your issues, physical and mental, but you're not doing it in a dramatic, attention, energy-feeding way. You're doing it because you're making a huge transformation in your body, in your psychology, in your consciousness. And sometimes those transformations are, well, they're major. They will bring up a disease. They'll bring up an imbalance so you can release it. Not so somebody else can heal it for you, You're bringing these up so you can release it, and you have been doing exactly that. What some of you may call a miracle, what some of you just are amazed at. How can you release something like cancer or a disease when the doctors say it's impossible, nearly impossible? You're learning that you can, not with will, not with positive affirmation, not with any effort whatsoever, but simply with consciousness, with choosing. So you bring up these issues in your life, and I know there have been plenty, whether it's emotional, psychological, dramatic, health issue of balance, mental balance. You bring these up so you can release them, so you can actually see the wisdom and the joy in it, and you can release it effortlessly. That's hard for most people to understand, this effortless part, because humans are acclimated and programmed to pushing on something in order to make it work, on using an exertion of energy and force, of power to make something change. But the true Magi understands there's absolutely no need for that force or power whatsoever. Magi understands that it's simply a matter of making that choice and getting out of the human's way. Actually, in a way, Cauldre really summarized this entire shout at the beginning by saying, things happen on levels which the human doesn't understand, nor should have to understand, but it's getting that human out of the way so the I am can bring about what is greater than what your mind or imagination can possibly imagine. There's so much in that, Shambra. You struggle and toil at times with what your thought from a limited, imprisoned human would like to have. And then you try to use power to make it happen. You try to force it. And then you are so hard on yourself when it doesn't work the way the human wants it to work. You beat yourself. Try now just getting yourself out of the way. Try realizing that as we go forward in this, you're going to have human desires, human issues and concerns. You will also have the and. You will also have the, what you could say, the divine perspective, a very free and open perspective. Please understand that whatever it is that is being chosen, not just from the human survival mode, but from the grace of the I am mode, will simply come without effort. That will be challenging because you're going to feel like the human, is not doing anything. And the human has to effort, has to push, has to use power. What you're going to be learning here in these next 11 shouds of ours is that there is no need for any pushing. It's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel like you're walking outside onto a crowded public street without clothes on, totally naked, really. Because it's going to feel awkward, and you're going to feel, what have you forgotten? What are people going to say? Well, first of all, they're not going to see you. It's not an emperor's clothes thing. They're just not going to see you. Because they're on a whole different playing field called power. They're not going to see you. They're not going to care about you unless you choose for them to do so. You're going to feel naked because you don't have on the suit of armor of power that everybody wears out there. And you're going to feel vulnerable for a moment. And then you're going to realize there's no need for that armor anymore. There's no need for that power anymore in your life. And then you're going to realize that things just come to you in ways that the human mind could not have dreamt or imagined. That'll be another challenge. You're so used to thinking about what you want, but the thinking, A, is generally not coming from your real thoughts. They're not really yours. They belong to your ancestors. They belong to mass consciousness. They're not really yours. You're so used to thinking in terms of the basics, a salary, a car that works, a house that you can sleep in, and those type of things. And those don't really matter. They really don't. I know to the human, they might, but I have to have those first. No, actually, you're going to realize they just don't matter. And you're going to hit a point in this year where you're going to get mad first at yourself and then at me. And you're going to say, why have I wasted so much time, so many lifetimes on the pursuit of such humanly things at the absolute forgetting or not seeing of what was really important? Why was I wasting so much time on things that were going to be there anyway if I had just allowed myself to go to the next level of consciousness? Why was I so short-sighted in just focusing on paying the bills, feeding myself, having a job, those things, when those are just going to be there naturally when I'm free? Those things, it's humorous in one respect and sad in another respect. It's humorous to see all this effort going into such mundane things, really mundane things, surviving, pretty mundane. It's boring, and that's why you're here. You recognized it was boring. It's sad to see how much of a person's lifetime and potential is wasted in a way when really those things are taken care of. I have to underline that and stress that. Those things that you worry about, the basics, Tobias talked about them years ago: abundance, health, relationships, and to a degree self-worth. But those basics are automatically taken care of in the powerless life. Those things are, they're automatically filling in ways you couldn't imagine. Oh, I know, I see the linear mind paths you walk down at times. You plan out a life. What do I have to do about a job? What do I have to do about the day-to-day taking care of the human physical? What do I have to do about my body and about what I eat and about chemicals and all the rest of that? And then it stops there. It limits right there. And everything then is designed around these basic human survival things. You're going to realize, and I don't mean this to be smart ass, you're going to realize that this huge barrier called death is really not that important. It's really, really not bad or dreaded. And the fact is that, all of you have death sitting out here like a time clock, ticking away. When's it going to happen? And you have desires to live to be 150 years old, but you probably kind of know. You say, I'm probably not going to get much past 80 or 90. Some of you worried because of your family background that a health issue may take you now or next year. And so there's this huge thing about death, and it's really actually not that bad. I can hear the mind screaming away right now. What do you mean it's not so bad? Well, stay with me for a moment. Take away the pain that you could have with a disease or a car accident or something like that. And let's say that it's just going peacefully in the middle of the night, and suddenly, without a lot of trauma or a lot of rigmarole, you realize, oh, I'm dead. You look down, like the camera looking down at you, you look down, oh, geez, there's my body. laying there in the bed, and I'm free. I'm free. It's actually, there's not a lot of laughter going on here. But that's a big barrier. This whole death fear, the death, it puts you in a type of trap. Death is not that bad. Actually, it's kind of fun. I don't recommend going out and trying it tonight. This is Cauldre with his medical. What's the disclaimer here? Don't try this at home.
This is for entertainment value only.
Right. But I digress. Back to my point. If I can remember my point. Those things don't matter that you're worrying about now, and you're gonna get upset with yourself and then with me sometime, probably about 6 months from now, and say, why did I spend so much time worrying about things that were already taken care of by you? Why did I worry about mundane things? And it's amazing what happens as we go into the powerless life. Your life will be turned upside down in many ways, and that's okay. It's the end. You're still gonna be here, and you're still gonna be continuing on, and your life's gonna be turned upside down, and it's gonna be amazing and fun. Because this time, it's not gonna be from a singular perspective. It's not gonna be, oh, my whole life is turned upside down. It's gonna be like, oh, my life here turned upside down, and here I am, a grand free being. Doesn't matter. You get to experience all of it. And you're going to realize that there's things that are going to happen in your life that are going to be beyond what this human here could have imagined. Because I got to tell you right now, as we get into this new series, you're really limited in what you imagine for yourself. Really limited. It's kind of like being given if you're an artist, being given a whole studio filled with canvases and paintbrushes and acrylics or oils and welding equipment and anything to compose artwork. And then just taking out a pack of crayons, children's, school crayons, and one little sheet of paper and tearing that in half because you didn't want to waste it and drawing on that. And that's what you're going to come to realize, that the dreams of the human were so limited, so very limited. And I understand why the human dreams, but really they're failure dreams. They really are. I mean, not that you're dreaming of failure, but you do. But you dream something so human, and then it doesn't work out. And then slowly, over time, you stop dreaming. Slowly, you withhold on the dreams because it's like, oh, that didn't work out. I was such a fool. No, it wasn't that you were a fool. It's actually that you didn't dream beyond the human. You didn't open to the dreams of the I am. And once you do that, once we walk on beyond the human limitations and dreams, we walk on into the powerless life. All those things are just there, the jobs, the money, and you realize with a big laugh, why was I so focused on that when it's just here? It's not magic. We're going to go into the physics this year, explain why it's not magic. It is just consciousness. That's all. That's all. So let's take a good deep breath as we're going to walk on. It's going to be a big year. I'm going to already say it's going to be our biggest year yet, by far. By far. I didn't say the easiest. I said the biggest. Our biggest year yet, because as we're going to experience today, I'm going to do several things with you, but particularly we're going to do kind of a dream walk. I'm going to do less lecturing, and we're going to do more experiences, your personal experiences, at least today, maybe not the rest of the year.
What does the biggest mean?
Yeah, I'm getting there. So today we're going to do a couple of things. First, we're going to do just a walk, not even a dream walk, that walk into the powerless life. We've started this already with Kehawk. And the Keyhawkers can tell you it's changes things. We're going to go to another level with it today, into the powerless life. So it's one of those things too. I'm gonna really ask you to be certain with yourself that you know and that you're making a choice to do this. Because if you say I'm going to test the waters of powerlessness, it doesn't work. You can't test it a little bit because you're going to be pulled right back into power. Power right now is a bigger magnet than powerless. Eventually not, but today it's a bigger magnet. So if you say, well, I'm going to go a little powerless, and you try taking that baby step, you're going to get pulled back by the power of the magnet very hard, very, very hard, and you're going to be disappointed in yourself. You're going to say, well, that didn't work so well. And you're going to get upset with yourself first for being a spiritual schmuck, and then you're going to get upset with me. Well, Adamus tells us all this stuff, and it doesn't work. Well, I'm telling you right now, you have the opportunity to go into the powerless life where you don't need the fight, you don't need the push, you don't need the friction of living in the powered world. But go in for all, not just a little bit. It doesn't work very well. It hurts, actually. So what does the biggest mean? Biggest year? Biggest year, you're going to see the biggest transformations. You're going to see the biggest change of consciousness. And it's not going to be at all what the mind right now thinks. It's not. Because if you're saying, oh, good, I'm going to be able to walk on water, and I'm going to be able to know everything. And, no. There's something that goes far beyond. You know, consciousness is an interesting thing, because you are truly pioneers of consciousness, or pirates of consciousness. And consciousness is funny because when you don't have it, or you're limited, you don't realize what it's doing. You don't realize how consciousness has changed history, incredibly so, over a very, very short period of time. I'm going to say 1,500 years ago, consciousness was so different. Think or feel for a moment, not think, feel for a moment. A lot of you were incarnated 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 years ago. Your human mind now thinks, oh, it was just me, but I didn't have a car or internet, and I wore kind of funny clothes, but I was just like this back then. No. You didn't have nearly the consciousness. Do you realize back 1,500, even 1,000 years ago, that most people were slaves? Not just a few. Most people were owned by royals. Owned. And what's even stranger is they didn't question it. They didn't need a lot of guards and armies and police to keep the slaves as slaves, because you didn't question it. It was your lot in life. Now, there was kind of, you could say, an overlay that kept you in line. And one of my favorite things to not talk about is the Roman Catholic Church. It was a great, for those of you with that background, take any church, put it in place, and it's the same macchio. The church kept you in place. The very unconscious beliefs in some God that really doesn't exist, thank God for that. But you were told that you had to be a servant, you had to serve God, you had to serve your masters, you had to lead a hard and suffering life because this is what God required. And you know, you believed it. You didn't really question it back then. It went on and on. Without patting myself on the back, because I'm going to let Linda do it here.
Ooh.
A pat on the back.
Ooh.
I, along with a few other esteemed, now ascended grandmasters, were the first to talk openly about freedom. Openly. Do you realize that back 500 years ago, if you'd talked openly about freedom, yeah, openly about freedom, you would have been arrested, you would have had the trial about 10 minutes later, and you would have been hanged or burned or guillotined immediately. Now we can talk about it like this, but consciousness was so different. Consciousness was unconscious, and I could go on and on and on with examples. Do you realize that in this world, the first true democracy did not really exist until about 100 years ago? And you say, oh, no, but the Greeks. No, my friends. The Greeks and not so much the Romans, but the Greeks. No, they thought about democracy. They contemplated it. And they had certain democratic activities with the elite. With the elite. But it wasn't open to everybody. I don't really consider that a democracy when it's not open. Just because you have 10 rich guys sitting around and voting about how the rest of the empire will be run is not a democracy. And you say, okay, but America, the first practicing democracy goes back to 1776. Nah, wasn't really democracy here until actually, in my opinion, about 40 or 50 years ago. And it's still not real freedom. There are still those who do not have the same entitlements as the others. It's much better than what we were 300, 500 years ago, but my friends, there's still not freedom. Don't kid yourselves. Don't kid yourselves at all. So back to my point, whatever the point was. Consciousness. In the next year, you have the opportunity to become much more conscious, aware, knowing. And it will surprise you and amaze you at times during the year. Write it down if you would, please, for yourself, or share it. How much you were unconscious before, how much you thought you were on a spiritual journey, but you were really unconscious. Spiritual journey, to me, is a human's heartfelt, good-intended, but failing attempt to be free. Spiritual journeys are filled with Makyo, they are, and leaders, and gurus, and everything outside of yourself. Spiritual journeys are a distraction at best. Spiritual journeys are often a huge pitfall that leads one back again and again and again for new incarnations. And what do? They get right back on the spiritual road. Now, I know some of you are out there, maybe one or two even in here, are like, oh, here goes Adamus, picking on everything. Absolutely. Why not? I almost feel like I've got a rifle and I'm sitting here in a barrel of water with fish in it. And it's easy. It's easy to pick on all of it. It's easy to really take a look with a sense of humor at everything in your life, a big sense of humor, and realize it was birthed from a place of limited consciousness. And, you know, we're not going to keep trying to repair the limited consciousness. We're not going to keep trying to fix it and make it feel better and tell it how it's had such a hard life. No, we're not. We're not here to fix what was. We're here to open up to something that is totally, totally free and new. Free as in freedom. New as in you hadn't brought it into your life before. Always there, but you hadn't brought it in. So please understand, in the powerless life, we're not going back and fixing bodies, brains. We're not going back and trying to repair old things. Why? You know why? Why we're not? First of all, because it's an and that's still there and it can still exist. You're going to look back one of these days in this year. You're going to realize how singular and linear life was until now. I was like, why did I think I had to just keep going along that linear human path, trying to band-aid myself, trying to fix myself, heal myself? Why? Why heal? I mean, emotionally, physically, spiritually, why heal when you can just be and? You could still have that. You still have the broken, pathetic, limited human self, stubborn humans. Why not? When you can also have the and in the powerless life, it's going to be about going into the and, not about fixing schmuck. We'll let that continue. That is the miracle, the blessing, the beauty. It's like, let's do it all. Let's do it all. Let's be aware of the I am and all of the different personas that it can bring. It's a lot less work than trying to fix the human self, Brother John. Let Brother John keep doing Brother John kind of stuff, but let's explore what else is there. I say explore. We're not going to have to manufacture a thing. We're not going to be building anything. We're not going to be trying to create new identities. They're already there. And you're going to wake up in your consciousness someday and say, why did I spend so much time trying to fix what I thought was broken rather than just opening up to everything that I am? Amazing. Why did I spend so much time trying to just pursue a career, pay my bills, have a car to drive, when I was already taken care of? Why was I so unconscious? So that's where we're going this year.